Perfect. A great audience today. Thank you everybody for connecting. We're very glad to see that there's a lot of interest in this new tool that we've built. A first version of this tool has been available on the platform for a while already. We had great feedback from a lot of users, and we've used this feedback to improve forecast. It's a very powerful tool, we think, and today we're going to show you what it can do, a couple of the use cases, and how you can use this to start looking ahead. So again, welcome everybody. My email is on the screen. For those who joined us a little bit later, feel free to write me at any time. If there's questions during this workshop, feel free to add them to the question box in GoToWebinar. We'll try to answer them at the end. But if there's anything else, or if there's anything after this workshop that we can help you guys with, you can contact me on this email or through your account manager as well. So forecast. Before we go into the tool itself, a little bit of context. The project profiles that most of you, I imagine, are familiar with are at the core of our product, and a lot of the things that we add to our database, and even a lot of the news that we produce and a lot of the reports are built around this database of projects. So project for us has always been a very strong core product of our offering. And we maintain this database updated by a team of experts. We have experts, industry experts, and a lot of them are actually in the countries that we cover. So they're across the region, and we think that's a great asset, and it's a great team maintaining these project profiles as updated as we can, and adding other expertise to it, like news articles, reports that we publish. But always the project database, we know, is not only one of the most important things for a lot of our users, but we ourselves also see this as our kind of the central, the main part of our product. So when it comes to forecast, what we're doing is we're adding a tool to our toolbox using that same database, but this time it's something that lets you look ahead. It lets you get ahead of things, and it shows you what's going to happen in the future in these projects that we cover. So when most tools help you react, what we want to achieve with forecast is to get ahead of things that are happening, and actually being able to plan ahead and see what's going to happen in these different sectors with these different projects. We'll show you how this works, but that's the main concept of this new tool. Forecast gives you the ability to look ahead and to find things that are going to happen in the future as detected by our investigators and editors. So some of the use cases, we've seen users both with version 1 and as we tested this new version that we're showing you now, we've seen a lot of people use this tool in different ways. Business development is definitely a strong use case where people want to get ahead of what is going to be tendering in the future, but also things like market intelligence, looking how many electric power capacity is going to come online in the future in a certain country is a great use case that we've seen as well. And strategy and planning in general, of course, is in all these use cases, it's very important to look ahead and to know what's going to happen. So this whole tool is built around that, and these are some examples of use cases that we think this tool is very helpful. So let's jump into the tool right away. We don't want to be talking too much before showing it. So this is how it looks. Everybody has already access to this tool, so you can find it within the projects menu, projects, and then forecast, and it'll show you a screen like this. The top part of this screen is very familiar for those who have already filtered projects or filtered even news or companies. We always work with these filters. Almost all of the filters that you can use in projects are now also available when it comes to forecast. And we've also added the functionality to save filters. So in this case, I have some filters set up. We'll go into what exactly I set up now a little later, but I can save this, and this will be added to my saved filters. Right? So I can go back to any of these filters in the future. These are kind of shortcuts to things that I filtered previously. So in this case, I'm looking at a simple case of electric power generation projects, and I'm looking at Chile. So one type of projects, one country, and I also added a filter. I want to only be looking at projects that are active today, right? So there are some projects that we already know are canceled, or well, these projects by filtering by status is active. I'm excluding these canceled projects from my analysis. And what I can see here is the number of projects for each Q. So this is Q2 2025, the current one. And for each future Q, I can see how many projects are reaching the start of construction. So this is a very important part of the forecast tool. I can select one of these 4 dates. So environmental and social approval, start of construction, end of construction, and start of operation. I can select one of these 4 dates, in this case, start of construction, and this will show me how many of these projects that are within this scope are going to start construction in each queue. So this is very powerful when I want to start backtracking and see, okay, so which project would be interesting to start offering my service to now, right? Just as one use case. If I'm not interested in a number of projects, I can also choose to visualize this as the total of CapEx. And I could also choose to show this by year instead of by quarter. Right? So just some filters here that I can use. We know some people are more interested in CapEx than number of projects, but whatever the preference is, I can manage that here. I can also, of course, play with this graph. I can go further into the future, shorten my window. All of these graphs can be downloaded. I personally, what I do normally, I take screenshots rather than downloading images, but there are some advantages. If I download a PDF, for example, it's more scalable and it's a little bit more flexible, but it's there. If you guys want to download this as an image, that's available within this menu at the right hand. I can, of course, go into which these projects are. So let's say I want to check. There's 7 projects in Q3 for next year. So I can click and I can see which projects there are, right? So these are 7 projects. I can see some basic information already. I can, of course, go into any of these 7 projects. I would visit the project profile if I click on one of these names. And I can download an Excel file with information for these 7 projects. Also, I can see similar information, but in a table format. So let's say I want to look at capacity. Again, we're looking at power generation projects in Chile here, and this would give me the capacity and megawatts that are expected to go into construction in each queue. And of course, I can click on this 9 and I'll see the 9 projects that correspond to Q3 in this year. Again, download functionality, and I can click on any of these other numbers. If it's not 0, if there are any projects, I can click and I can go into what these projects are. I can also choose to download that whole batch. So if I would download it using this button, I would be downloading all of these projects. Of course, I'll have a column in which queue these go into construction, but I will be able to download that whole set. If I change this to a year, of course, what I would be getting is I would be able to download projects for a certain year, right? So let's say I'm only interested in projects for 2026. I would change this to year. I would open that in my sidebar and I would download these projects for 2026. That's the basic functionality. There's a little bit more we can do here. So let me go to this second window. So in this case, I'm looking at mining and metals or infrastructure projects. So it's a little bit broader. And this time, I'm not only looking at Chile, but I'm adding Peru and Argentina. And by adding more countries and more sectors, it gives me the ability to group things both within this graph and within the table below. So let's say I want to compare these countries. I click on country, and I'll be comparing, in this case, I also changed this date, right? So in this case, I'm looking at start of operation, and I'm looking at which of these projects in mining and metals or in electric power, in infrastructure, sorry, are going to be starting operation in each one of these Q, comparing Chile, Argentina, and Peru. So Q4 2027 is looking as a high activity quarter when it comes to these two sectors. Again, same functionality is available here. And this time in my table, I can actually open each one of these countries and start looking at what's in there. I can change the capacities, and I can play around with these as well. So let's say I also want to break down by sectors. In this case, I'm segmenting both by country and by sector, and I'll get two graphs. This one is looking at country, and this one is comparing mining and metals to infrastructure. And again, my table below also maintains that same classification, right? So this time I'm looking at Chile, and then opening mining and metals, and then I can see that there are 4 in Q2. Of course, again, I can open these and see which 4 they are. If I would like to switch this around, I could put sector before country, and this time, of course, what I would be seeing is the sector graph on the left, country graph on the right, and this time my first level would be sectors and my second level would be countries. The information, of course, would be the same, but I can access it in a different way. The dates that we work with today are environmental social approval, so quite early stage. Then we have start of construction, end of construction, and start of operation. Start of operation, for example, is a great date if we want to look at how much electric power is coming online in Peru in the upcoming 10, 15 years, right? That would be a great use case for forecast, and it would give you that data by filtering accordingly. So that's it. Everybody has this tool available already. Again, you can find it for those who joined us later. It's within the projects menu, and then click on forecast. These filters will probably be set, well, they are preset already to your preferences, but you can change all of these filters, and you can save them, of course. When I want to only have environmental approved, I'll add that, I'll save these filters, and I can use them tomorrow again. That's forecast. So again, you can find this here. If you're accessing this tool for the first time, you'll see a little on-screen tour, very similar to what we went through in this short demo, but just a little refresher. A couple of steps where you can go through learning where to filter what and how to use forecast. So let's open it up for questions. Okay, so first question. Can I filter by projects that are new? Yes, so there is a filter that you can use. There's a filter that's called, so let's go back to this screen. I was also already filtering by status as active here. I can add a filter for development type, and we have a filter here. It's the same filter than the one we have available on the project homepage. You can filter by greenfield or new projects or brownfield/expansion projects. So in this case, if I would filter by greenfield new, I would be seeing only new projects, and I would be excluding any projects that are considered expansions within, of course, the scope that I already filtered in the beginning. No? So yeah, it's possible to only look at projects that are new. Okay, so is this help? This helps to understand regional deal flow and investment opportunities by sectors. Yes, exactly. That's a great use case. We've seen that. We've seen people use it for that, and this is a great way to see what's coming up and to be part of that future and anticipate or plan ahead in terms of we've seen people using this when they start visiting certain countries. Let's see who we can visit within companies that have projects that are going online in next year, so we're right on time. All of these use cases where we want to look into the future, that's exactly what we think this tool is built for. So yes, definitely that's a great use case. So let's see if there's any other questions. Okay, so is every project available in Forecast? So that's a good question. So in order for us to display a project here, we need, of course, to have the date that our user is selecting here. So there may be cases where we are filtering for a certain type of project in a certain country, and then we want to know when these projects start, let's say start of operation. There are projects that are within the scope that I defined here on top, but that don't have this date attached to the project yet, simply because it's unknown. In these cases, that project would not show up in this graph, of course, and also not in this table, because we don't have any way to plot it in any queue. So for the complete list of projects that comply with the filters that I did above, regardless of this date, I can use this link. It will open up the project's homepage with these filters that I've set in the top, but it will not take into account any of these dates, right? So that being said, we are working on adding dates constantly. Of course, our team is working every day to get this database as complete as we can, but it is possible that some of these projects don't have a certain date yet, and in that case, it wouldn't be included in our forecast. Great question. So it looks like that are the questions that we received. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you for connecting. We had a great audience. There is one more question, sorry. So 1 second, let's see if we can get this here. Right, so would this allow me to check the total production of a country? Yes, that's a great use case. There are some smaller projects that may be beyond our coverage, and these projects would not be included simply because there are some cases, let's say solar power, that it's impossible for us to track every little power plant. So in these cases, we of course track projects from a certain threshold and above, but within that scope of our coverage, this would definitely be a tool that allows you to track the production of a country, or at least the expected production, what comes online in upcoming years and quarters, right? So it's not accumulated, but you could use this to check what's coming online new and see how to plan according to that. So yes, that is a use case. So thank you everybody for connecting. This webinar was recorded, so you will receive a recording of this workshop after the fact. And again, if there's any questions that come up in the future, my email is on screen today, right now, sorry, and you can write me today or anytime you want. So thank you very much. We hope this has been useful. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time we have exciting things to share. Thank you.